Hi, everyone. Welcome to Inspired to Run podcast. Today, I'm here with Allison Gaillard. Allison is a runner, mom of two incredible people, and wife to a brilliant man. She has an undergraduate degree in athletic training, is RRCA certified adult distance running coach, and will become a cross country coach in the fall, and is the host of Run Your Story podcast. Welcome to the show, Allison.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Thanks for letting me come. I'm excited.
Yeah, for sure. So excited to have you here. It's been a few months since we first met at
Mhm.
Podfest earlier in the year, and we've kind of had it on the list to, get each other on each other's shows.
That's
So
right.
here we are to talk about your story and running and yeah, what you do. So thanks for being here.
Absolutely. It truly is an honor. I love what you do. I love listening to your podcast, and like I've told you, like I feel like we're brother sister podcasters. We're on the same mission, so I love that so much.
Yes, yes, same, and I agree. It's really wonderful for the opportunity to help others along their journey, and the more
Mm,
podcasters like us out there doing that, the more people we can help and serve. So, yeah, for sure,
100%.
totally agree. And yeah, so just learn a little bit about you before kind of this podcasting world that you've entered. But how did your journey start in running, or just learn a little bit about you?
Sure. So I've always played sports, but it was mostly like softball, tennis, that sort of thing. I've always been active. Sports has always kind of been like my outlet for things. And something that you've mentioned is kind of like with running, that's just something that anybody can do no matter like if you're having a bad day, go hit the pavement. If you got great news, go hit the pavement. So that's kind of always been my outlet. But as you know, as a parent, there comes a time where you don't think about yourself as much. And so I had two little kids at home, and I was kind of like, what do I do? Not much to do with these two little kids. And we had the opportunity to move to Vermont. And in Vermont, people are so active. People are out hiking mountains, snow skiing, and we were very fortunate to meet a lot of incredible people that just became family. And we absolutely love them. We were always doing something with them. And that kind of reignited that spark for me. And we moved back to Alabama after my sister in law passed away with leukemia. We knew we needed to be with family. And so we moved back. But I remember telling my husband, we're moving to small town Jackson, Alabama. There's not much there to do, it's very rural. I'm going to need something to do. And my father in law, who I call Pops, he was already doing a lot of cycling, century bike riding. And so I was like, hey, Dad, I'm going to join you on this bike ride. So that was a really cool season of life because we went all over the state of Alabama, even into a little bit of Georgia and Florida, and rode. And it was really cool and to know what your body could do. I mean, I would have never thought I would be biking 100 miles. Like that just wasn't a thing. But I did it, and it was hard, so hard, and especially when it's hot in Alabama. And but then I just started praying more intentionally, still cycling, but I knew I needed to be surrounded by other moms because as a mom, you go through things and you want somebody to talk to help guide you. And so I'm a big believer in mentorship. And I knew I needed to be surrounded by people that were my age, but also that were older than me and to help guide me along as I was a mom of two young kids. And part of that group was Gals for His Glory, and they were starting a Couch to 5K program. But I went, and I wish I could say I fell in love with running, but I fell in love with the community. I fell in love with the people, and that's what got me coming back. And I've gotten to do some incredible things with them. We had since moved from small town Jackson, where my heart is at, but we moved to Mobile, Alabama, which is a great area, great city. We're only about 55 minutes away from Jackson, but it's just your people and you miss them. And it's something that you've shared with me is that when you get to go back to that place where you have roots, it just means something. And so that's really where my running story started. And so for me, it's all about the community and it's all about the family aspect of it. That as a family, you can go out and do this. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And first off, sorry for your loss. I do appreciate you sharing that. And, I really love your story around how you got started, and you weren't a runner when kind of growing
Mm,
up, and you did other sports, and you didn't necessarily fall in love with running, but you fell in love with community. I really love
mm,
what you shared there, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get into the conversation. So, one of the areas that I'm interested in is kind of your mindset at the time. So you mentioned it wasn't something that you enjoyed doing, and you were more interested in the community part, but you know, running is not an easy thing to get started
no.
in if you're not in the right mindset. So, like, what were your thoughts during that time, and what encouraged you to like take those first steps and kind of work through that plan?
Oh, there's an ongoing joke, and it was really funny. During Mardi Gras, I caught a necklace, and that necklace had a whistle on it. And I knew exactly that it needed to go back to Lizbeth, because she would blow the whistle when it was time to walk or time to run. And so I just, there it became an ongoing joke of like, someone needs to take the whistle from her. And I think though it was just knowing that I was surrounded by people that were in the same we were in the same season of we're doing Catch a 5K together. We weren't runners. That wasn't something like we were all learning this together. I My first pair of shoes were from the local store, not it wasn't even a running store. It was just like a goodies or something that they had. And I mean they may have been like $40 because I knew nothing about running. I just knew I wanted to be with my people. So I think my mindset was just community. I wasn't even thinking about pain or anything because I was with these other women and we were just laughing and cutting up. And if you would have told me 10 years ago, Allison, like you're going to run a marathon, you're going to do a halves, you're going to do all these things, you're going to become a running coach, I literally would have been like, this is like, who, like, come on. That's a funny joke because that was never anything that it was never in my line of sight to think that I'm going to go anything further than this. To me, it was just being with other women and complaining together and just having a good time, having that joy together. So I guess the mindset wasn't it was never a competitive one. It was just this is my group of women. These are my people.
For sure, for sure. I love that. And, that's not something that I found until much later, I guess, in my journey. So it's something I had early in my running career. So I started
Mm,
running in high school as part of sports there, cross country and track. So I did have that community and that team there, but didn't have it for many, many years, even when I kind of got back into running, and not something I found until most recently. So I definitely can, relate to that.
absolutely. And I think if something isn't fun anymore and you're not surrounded by people that support you and encourage you, it you get burnout. And you never want that as a runner, especially when you have goals and you want to experience things with other people. And we were made to do that. We were made to be in community with one another. And so when you get to celebrate that and you get to run that, one of the coolest things for me is to be able to run with people at races. And I'll have friends that'll be like, "Oh, I don't want to hold you back." I'm like, "I don't care." Like, they can say it's that race. Your time is there forever. I don't care. Like that memory will also be there forever. So I'd rather have the memory than the time.
Yeah, for sure. And, let's talk about that for a minute. So, that's kind of the next pillar and what we talk about is movement. And I'd love to hear about your fun races, any
Mhm.
fun stories around that, and your training to do those races. Like, what did you do after your first couch to 5K?
Mm. We did Couch to 5K, and it was a local race that we did. And that kind of sparked for us, hey, we want to go do more. So we would all pack up together, drive to Mobile, and run together. I mean, we've done you dress up in costume or again, it was just community, we're just doing it together. Now it's a little more different, where we're still running together. In Jackson, it had at one moment, they had such a great running community, and then people moved away and it just kind of dwindled. So now we're starting back up. We meet on Thursdays and it's called Coffee and Kilometers. So I drive up on Thursdays and I just love being there with our people. We actually have a 5K that's starting up its first ever. That'll be next weekend that everyone's so excited about. But I think now it's just training's a little bit different. As I said, I live in Mobile, Alabama, so it gets hot. So training kind of dictates based on what the weather is. But I have this cool watch called a Koros. So it gives me some great training plans. In the as an RRCA coach, I get to have access to other coaches. We kind of like pick each other's brains, which is really cool. And just talking with different people and just saying, hey, what are you doing for your training plan, or what works for you, and just figuring out, because again, it should be a joy. Like, I tell people, when you look at your running shoes, they should get you excited, and you should be like, I cannot wait to get out there and hit the pavement. And if you're dreading it, then you think you should relook at that. As something that you said to me was, it's about balancing it, with priorities. And so if you're stressing out that day that you can't make your run, that's okay. Give yourself some grace and just say, you know what, there is tomorrow, and I'll get it in and I'll get it done. And the great thing about a new day is it's a new day, it's a new opportunity, and you get to push yourself a little bit further. And I would rather have friends that are having a good time than somebody get injured because they were pushing too hard. So, or they didn't fuel correctly or whatever it is. So I think the joy should always be there. I was inspired by one of the ladies that I interviewed, and she was saying that her races she ran for a young man who had, I think it was like Down syndrome. And I instantly knew there is a young man that was just born to a girl that I knew from Jackson, Alabama. And or now she's a young lady, I guess I should say. But that I reached out to her and I said, I want to run for Baker. I want to inspire him. And so he now gets all the medals, but to be able to send him encouragement to where as he grows, he knows that somebody's advocating for him. And hopefully one day we'll have a Baker run story, and to where he'll want to share his story, and he'll want to hit the pavement with his Auntie Allie that's out there running with him. I think it's just finding the love of running, but also making a difference with it. And I think that's what motivates me. When I did my first half, which was in Mobile, which is surprisingly a little hilly, I was able to run for Camille Place and the Rose Center, which are organizations that help survivors of human trafficking. So I always try to look at the fact that I get to run and I get this freedom to run that's not been taken away from me. So I will always have a reason that I'm on the pavement, a reason that I'm running, other than for myself. And that's kind of been my goal.
I love that. I love that. And thank you for sharing that. I mean, you are inspiring. Just the work that you're doing to build community, to support others. And that is your purpose. And I could
Mm-hmm.
totally see that in your podcast. I could see that in your online community. Like, you are the center of it. And, I really love what you're doing there. And, one of the things I'd love to know, like, beyond community, what are some of the common things that you coach your runners on, or what some of the key questions that you get as a coach to kind of help them along in their journey, whether it's physical or mental, or
Mm.
what are the things there?
I think one of them is, especially when someone's new starting out, is they go ahead and look at the schedule and they go, oh, I can't do that. And the cool thing about doing a podcast is, one of the questions I ask is, what's your mantra? And I pull from those. I'm like, here's a whole list of when things get rough and it's hot and humid, or it's windy and it's cold. Here's what you're going to say to yourself. And I love the fact that I hear time and time again, we can do more than what we think we can, and it's just starting. I think so much of it is we so want to compare our journeys to one another, and that could not be further from the truth. And I think that was one of the driving forces for creating Runner Stories, because you see someone cross that finish line and they get discouraged because their time isn't what they wanted, or they thought they were faster than what they were, or you're like, oh, how did that person get so fast? Well, they weren't always that fast. And as you shared with me, you gotta start somewhere, and you gotta work for it. Like, that's the thing. And I just tell people, especially if it's their first one, you're gonna have a PR. Just keep that in mind. And you can do more than what you think you can. Right now, it seems like a huge obstacle, but we're not. That's race day. We're preparing for race day. I just tell people, you just take it one day at a time. Don't focus on what's tomorrow. Focus on now. and you get through that workout, you get through that run, and then you move to the next day. And if you're injured or you need to take a break, that's okay. Again, give yourself some grace because you are human. Things are going to happen, and you can't control that. But you can control your comeback. You can control, hey, I want to get better at that, or whatever it is that they're wanting. I think right now it's been really cool because we're actually gearing up. I'm no longer doing training because I'll be training some middle school and high schoolers in the fall. But we're actually getting ready to launch. It's called Anchored Movement. One of the things that we learned as a group of coaches in Mobile that had done Run Your Story training is that not everybody can run. And one of the things that I've also gotten to learn is how important our adaptive athletes are. And so I want to have a place where everybody can come, no matter what they think limits them. And so Anchored Movement is family friendly oriented, and it's where we'll meet Saturday mornings and we'll have a time of fellowship, a time where, again, we're building community within a community. And if somebody wants to train with us, we have so many great races in our area that we're gearing up for. And so we'll train together, but it won't be like as structured, but it will be fun. And that, or if somebody's like, you know what, I want to be with you guys, so they're going to walk, or they're going to bring their bikes, their kids can bring their scooters, because as a family unit we all need to be moving together. And again, if a mom can bring her stroller and she meets another mom that has a stroller, and they're running together, that's community, and that's a bond that now they have. And one of the things I've learned is that, yes, we are runners. Yes, we are cyclists or whatever we are, but that's not who we are. That's a part of who we are. Just like you're a dad, you're, a husband, you're a podcaster, you're made of all these different things. You're not just one of those. And so, but as runners, we know it's mental. And so when we get sidelined, we're like, where's our identity now? And so I think keeping that focus, and that's really what I try to teach people when they come to me is, you're going to do something incredible. Enjoy the journey. Enjoy these moments, because crossing the finish line, that's a celebration of all your hard work. So I don't know
Yeah.
if that answered all your questions.
That was an incredible answer, and we have a lot to talk about there. First, I'll start with the mantras. So I love
Mm.
what you're doing with the mantras, and honestly, since I share with you my mantra, I don't know how inspiring that's going to be for others.
It's great. I loved it. Yes.
So I don't know, but yeah, but I love what you're doing there, and I love that you're, again, and everything that you're sharing is the underlying theme is around community, and
Oh my God.
that's really something special. So thank you for sharing that. One of the things that I wanted to ask you is, what would you say was your biggest obstacle, let's say in your running journey, and how did you overcome it?
Oh, definitely injuries. As I started to fall in love with running, I decided, hey, I want to do more. And so I went from a 5K and then to a 10K, but I didn't have adequate training as far as shoes and recovery and all of this. And so I kept getting injured. I was in PT. I was searching for things. And so then when I started doing my own research and I was like, okay, maybe it's the shoes. And I look at the bottom of my shoes. Yeah. I had no idea to rotate shoes. I think that's been one of the things for me, is learning how important proper running shoes are, how important hydration is. I was, it took me a while to understand the importance of strength training as a runner. And I cannot stress that enough to people. Like, strength training is spectacular, whether it's with a group or with a coach or whatever you're doing. Just strengthen, because you're putting such a stress on the body, and recovery is optimal. So I think my biggest obstacle for the longest time was injuries. And then I'm a bigger athlete. So as much as I would love to be an elite, very small athlete, I'm in the Athena bracket. And that was actually a reason why I didn't want to do the podcast, because I was like, I'm a bigger girl. Nobody's going to want to listen to me, or as a coach. And I had to get over that fear of, we all have a place. And if I say your pace, your race, it's your body, you can do more than what you think you can, then who am I to judge what a body can look like, because I've seen incredible athletes of all different sizes cross finish lines. So that's what I love about the running community.
Yeah, for sure. And, maybe it also helps runners in your community or folks in your community relate better to you, right? If they're,
I hope so.
just if they, like you're talking about the elite run. I'm not an elite runner, right? But I'm looking at the elite runners. I can't relate to them. I'm like, there's no
Mm,
way I could run, I don't know, sub 2 hour marathon. I don't know. I'm making it up. Like, but that I agree with you that, everybody's kind of in a different place. And if you
mm,
can relate better with your community, you can make them believe that they can achieve, what they're looking for and they can run. So, I
100%. Yeah.
appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
And then, talking about your biggest obstacle being your injury. So you talked a lot about how to prevent those injuries, right? So
Hmm.
good running
Hmm.
shoes, completely agree, and getting fitted for those shoes. And it's something that I didn't even learn right out of the gate. It's something I learned over
Mm,
time.
yeah.
Strength training, hydration, recovery. So doing all those things and not skipping any of those things because you feel,
Mm,
if you feel like, well, I did my workout and I'm done. Well, no, you're not. Like, you might not get the maximum benefit for what you just
mm,
did unless you do those other things. So, those are
hmm.
really important points that you make. And then what about for someone who maybe pushed it too far and now they have an injury that needs to be addressed?
Hmm.
Like, what do you I think you mentioned you went to a PT, but
Hmm.
what is that kind of first step for someone? Is it going to a PT, or what should they do?
We are very fortunate in Mobile that we have great PTs. We have great sports chiropractors. I think if there's an injury that it's sideline you, I would definitely go get it checked out. Don't try to self-diagnose. Don't try to think, oh, it'll get better, because it really could be something. It also could be something that you need to get checked out, because what caused that injury? Is there something that's off in your pH, or is there something that's off, chemical wise, imbalances? Our body's always trying to maintain homeostasis. And so when something's off, it's gonna compensate in some way. And so I definitely believe in going to get checked out, whatever it is, whether it's, hey, I want to go see an ortho, or, even your GP, they can write a referral for you for PT, or again, find a great sports chiropractor. We have one that I was very fortunate to be able to work with for a while, Dr. Jeremy Quint. And I learned so much from him, from the aspect of working on athletes when they would come in injured, and about prevention and recovery. And, you never want to hear those words, oh, you need to take 2 weeks off. So you do what you can now, but if you need to take those 2 weeks off, take them off. Do something else. Your body was made to move. So maybe get on the bike instead. Maybe, I cannot stress enough about aquatic rehab and how great that is, being in the pool. I think it's so underutilized. Um, and it's something that I would love to see more people do, is to get out there in the pool, and you can work up a sweat in the pool, running around, lunging, doing things that you may not be able to do on dry land right now. So definitely go get checked out.
Yes, for sure. So thank you for sharing that. And, being in the pool, I don't know if I think about that often. And certainly we haven't talked about that on the show. So I'm going to write that one down. We're
Yeah.
going to have to, going to have that as a topic here, but that's a really great,
Hmm.
great point for our listeners. So, Allison, kind of as we wind down here, I just love to, hear a few things from you. One of which is, what would be the one thing you would say to our listeners to inspire them to run?
Mm. Find a reason to run. And if you can't find the reason, be the reason, because you may be the reason that someone else runs. I cannot say enough great things about the community that I live in South Alabama, whether it's in Jackson, Alabama, or Mobile area. We have so many great running groups that are here. And I also get to partner with Do Goods, which is one of my favorite shopping stores. And once a month, we host what's called Run Good. So we highlight a nonprofit. So people get to come out, run through downtown Mobile, go shopping, and then run together. And it's absolutely been so cool to hear people say, "Oh, I didn't know about this." But then it's also been cool to like hear those nonprofits say, "Oh, I want to go run now," because now they're inspired. And so again, we're community and we're made to inspire one another. So, find a reason to run, whether it's for your children, your health, as you've mentioned before, or whether it's for your community, whatever it is, be the reason. And if not, say, you know what, I'm going to inspire someone else.
Love it. Love it. Thank you for sharing that. Allison, you are an inspiration to all of us and to your community. Let's talk about the work that you're doing with your community and
Mm.
podcast. So share a little bit about, what you do with your podcast and how you're building community and how folks can find you and follow you online.
Sure. So Run Your Story has a twofold mission. And one is to deepen the roots of our running community. So, as I said, we never know what someone's story is when they're running. We never know how they got so fast on that finish line. Or maybe that person you're running next to, this is their first ever race. And maybe they're coming out of a really bad situation. Or maybe they're celebrating something and they're like, I want to be proud of this. So you never know what that person's story is when they're running, but we all have a reason and a story as to why we started. And so one mission is to get to know and deepen the roots. And also, again, running's not our only identity, it's only a part of who we are. And so it's been cool to learn all these really cool, fun facts about people and to be like, oh, and I've learned so much about nutrition that I didn't know until I started talking to people. And then the other is to be a podcast where people can say, if they're like, you know what, I can't do that, then someone can say, you should go listen to Run Your Story because this person said the same thing. And now look at them. Now look at where they're at. And so that's really the twofold mission of Run Your Story is to inspire people to get started, but then also to help deepen the roots of our community. And it's been so much fun to learn about one another and to see those roots deepen. Unfortunately, I know there are stories I won't get to tell because people have passed on tragically, and we had some big hits in our community that really punched us in the gut. And but I've been able to share their stories through other people, and to know that their legacy is still going. And I think that that was an unexpected gift that I wasn't looking for, that I didn't know was possible. So that's been a pretty amazing moment.
Wonderful, wonderful. Allison, how can our listeners find you and follow you online?
Oh, sure. We are on social media, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. It's Run Your Story podcast and training. And yeah, or you can find us. We have an epic website that my brilliant husband built called runyourstory.com. And yeah, that's where we're at.
Allison, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing your story and the great work that you're doing. Congratulations on your journey. And, I'll put all this information in the show notes to make it easy for our listeners to find you and follow you. So, with that, thanks again and have a great day.
Awesome. Thanks, my friend.